I've given you the best draft strategy from the early positions. I've given you the best draft strategy from the middle positions. But what about if you get stuck in one of those late round positions, picks 9 through 12? What are you going to do? Can you put together a great team, or are you just hosed? No, you can put together a very good team, and I'm going to show you how in this video right here. Hey, before I get into all the picks, though, I got to remind you, flockfantasy.com/endgame is where you need to be this fantasy football season. You can come play fantasy football with and against us, and you can win cash prizes too. Plus, you're going to get endgame swag, access to our bonus articles, bonus videos, bonus live streams, our rankings, plus all the bonus stuff from all the other awesome creators we have over there on Flock Fantasy. Flockfantasy.com/endgame, the place to be this fantasy season. 30% off if you join now. All right, so there you are. You're at the end of the first round. You're on the clock. What do? Well, I got you covered. Let's start with rounds 1 and 2. First of all, I'm going to say if somehow Christian McCaffrey, Bijan Robinson, or Austin Eckler fall to you at one of these spots, take them. But if not, because they usually don't, this is what I'm going to do. Number 1, Travis Kelce. If Travis Kelce is still on the board for any of these picks, I am smashing draft, because this guy is not only a positional advantage at tight end, but he's basically like having a wide receiver 1 or an RB1. Now, if you get Travis Kelce in round 1, in round 2, I'm going wide receiver. But if you miss out on Travis Kelce, I'm taking 2 of these wide receivers. Let's start with A.J. Brown. He's an absolute stud in the prime of his career, attached to Jalen Hurts. Awesome, huge weekly upside. Definitely taking him. Or Garrett Wilson, who I think is going to have a big second year with Aaron Rodgers. Going to get a ton of targets. Love Garrett Wilson. Also really like Chris Olave, also in his second year. Got a nice QB upgrade with Derek Carr. He's also going to get peppered with targets. Or you could go with the Sun God here. We know he's got a very high floor, a decent ceiling, and with no Jameson Williams for 6 weeks, he's also going to be a target monster in this offense. And then finally, the other wide receiver I'm targeting here is Jalen Waddle. Has tremendous weekly upside. This Miami Dolphins offense is a fantasy feast for pass catchers, even for running backs too, to be honest. So Jalen Waddle, another guy I love. I want 2 of these wide receivers if I didn't get Kelce. Otherwise, I'll take Kelce and one of these guys. All right, now we're at rounds 3 and 4, and you have a couple of options here. Number 1, if you took Kelce in round 1, you can draft your RB1 and your wide receiver 2. If you missed out on Kelce in round 1, you can get your RB1 and your flex. There are a few guys I like for RB1 here. If Travis Etienne is still on the board, I will happily draft Travis Etienne. I am a little nervous about Tank Bigsby taking some work from him. Also, he doesn't catch a ton of passes, but he's an explosive runner. He's going to have touchdown upside. I like Etienne. I also really like Najee Harris here. I know he was disappointing last year, but he's a volume monster. He's going to get all the goal line work, and he catches enough passes. And then finally, the other running back I'm targeting here, Jahmyr Gibbs. I've talked about him. He's going to be a monster in the passing game, 80 to 100 catch upside in your PPR leagues. That will work as your RB1. For your wide receiver 2 or your flex, depending on what you did in the first couple rounds, I'm going to suggest one of these wide receivers. And let's start with Calvin Ridley, now with the Jaguars. He's fully healthy. I know he's coming back from a suspension, but I think he's going to be great. All the talk has been that he looks good. He looks like he's in shape. This is a great offense you want to target. I like Calvin Ridley here. I also love Amari Cooper here. To me, people are sleeping on Amari Cooper. This Browns offense is going to throw the ball more than people think. He has tremendous weekly upside. He's a clear number 1 receiver in this offense. Give me Amari Cooper. And then if those guys are gone, I'm okay with Jerry Jeudy. I don't love him this year, but he's probably going to be the number 1 receiver in this Broncos offense. You got to hope Sean Payton makes it better. It can't really be worse than it was last year. I'm also okay with Deebo Samuel. I don't love Deebo Samuel this year. I didn't like his usage, his role last year. I don't think it changes this year. But if they're all that's left, they're good enough. Now on to rounds 5 and 6, and you have a couple of options here. You can go with your QB and your running back 2 if you grab your flex in the previous round, or you can go with your RB2 and your flex here if you didn't get your flex in the previous round. Let's start with the QBs if you're going that route. If Justin Herbert is still on the board, and a lot of times he is, I will happily take Justin Herbert here. I know he was a bit disappointing last year, but now with Kellen Moore, this offense is going to be a more vertical passing attack. Throw it down the field more. That's good for Justin Herbert. And then the other quarterback I really like here is Trevor Lawrence. I just talked about Calvin Ridley. This Jaguars passing attack, you want a piece of it. Trevor Lawrence is a generational talent. Basically a rookie year last year, and he had over 4,000 yards and 25 touchdowns. Expect those numbers to go up this year. For running back 2, there's a few guys I like here. Kenneth Walker, I think, is fair value here. I don't love him this year. I'm a little worried about Charbonnet, but at this spot, I will bet on the talent of Kenneth Walker. Also really like Cam Akers here. I think he's a workhorse running back that's kind of being slept on. The Rams offense should be better this year. Stafford healthy, McVay there. The offensive line got a little bit better. like Cam Akers, though, as my RB2. And then, of course, J.K. Dobbins. If he's somehow still here, I'm smashing the J.K. Dobbins draft button. I think J.K. Dobbins is going to have a monster year this year. This Ravens offense is going to be more dynamic. He's fully healthy. He's a great runner. Give me J.K. Dobbins as my RB2 every single draft if I can. And then finally for the flex, I love Hollywood Brown as my flex. People are sleeping on this guy because they don't think Kyler Murray's going to play this year. But look, there's already talk that Kyler Murray wants to be out there week 1. I think we're going to see Kyler Murray way earlier than people think. And right now, Marquise Brown is an absolute value. He was the wide receiver 5 through 6 weeks last year before that foot injury. And if Kyler Murray can't run, that's even better for Marquise Brown because he's just going to be sitting there throwing it 40 plus times a game. And then I also like Brandon Ayuk, who we saw last year kind of became the 49ers' #1 wide receiver as my flex. Brandon Ayuk, I will happily take him. I want that upside in my flex spot. All right, now on to round 7, and there's really only 2 options here. You either still need your QB or you still need your tight end. So let's start with the QBs here if you haven't taken a QB yet. Well, a lot of times you can get Deshaun Watson here, and talked about it a lot this offseason. I think this Browns team passes a lot more this year. I think we see a significantly better Deshaun Watson this year, not having to worry about all the off-the-field stuff, not having to come back from a suspension, getting the full offseason, a full training camp. With this offense, with this coaching staff, I think Deshaun Watson bounces back as a top 10, maybe even a top 5 quarterback. I'm also okay with Dak Prescott here. This is a guy who we know puts up tremendous numbers. Yeah, there's the interceptions, but you know what a big part of those interceptions were? It was that Kellen Moore was always asking him to throw the ball deep, especially on like 3rd and long, just chucking it deep. This is going to be more of a West Coast offense. Get the ball out quick, get it in your playmakers' hands, let them make plays. That's going to be good for Dak. He's going to cut down on the turnovers, increase the touchdowns. I like Dak a lot this year. And if you still need a tight end, sometimes maybe Kyle Pitts or George Kittle can make it to you here, but probably not. But there is one guy I like to target here who does sometimes fall, and that is Dallas Goedert. I think he's going to be great this year. When he was healthy last year, he was pretty much a set and forget tight end. I don't see why that will change this year. So for me, Dallas Goedert, if he's still here at the end of the 7th round, I will take him. But if not, I'm just going to punt on tight end and try to get a guy like Pat Freiermuth, Evan Ingram, or David Njoku later on in the draft. All right, so that's the best draft strategy if you've got a late round pick. But what about if you got a mid round pick? You can check that out right here.